Welcome to the third part of the series where some new parts will be made for the carb. This was purchased cheaply on the internet. It fits here fine, but it hits the crankcase on the engine. So an extension piece needs to be made. This is the end of the carburetor, and this is a sleeve to mount the filter further out. It needs to seal, so here are some O-rings that can be fitted into a groove here. A simpler way would be to make a plastic sleeve and sweat it on. This piece of nylon will just about do. Oh yeah, it's the same both ways. But there's this. It came from eBay, so it won't fit, but another is on its way. This will save some time. Right, what else could we not make? This air bleed jet valve thing. This is obviously nothing like what's supposed to be here, but this needle valve seems original. There's no info readily available online, so I'll have to guess how it's supposed to be. The taper angle is 40 degrees included. An OBA thread should fit snugly. The hole size is unknown. It seems that this hole may as well be as large as the holes it supplies in the throttle body. You can see them here. A tool is needed to cut the internal taper. It's too small to poke a boring bar down. This starts as so many projects do, with a rummage through the scrap cutter box. A modified centre drill of this size will do. And a tickler button is needed. This hole is open, allowing dirt into the float chamber. A spring-loaded button will cover this hole and allow the float to be pushed down to increase the fuel level for starting. This is the top of the carburetor. It will need a cup that fits into the hole. A pin to push down the float, a button covering the top, and a spring. That's a spring. Also a washer and a split pin to hold it in place. The bottom part will be the hardest to make. The pin and cap could be made separately and soldered together, but it would be nicer to make it as one piece. The dimensions will partly depend on what spring can be found. Too big. One of these should do. The size of the existing hole in the carburetor needs to be found so the part can be made to fit without modifying the carb. A tool of this type will be made, but with a hole through it instead of a spigot. These are for counterboring, so an Allen head screw or bolt can sit under the surface. Silver steel will be used for the tool. This is a very rough outline of the tool. A larger drill can be used from the back almost to the tip to give the tool clearance to reduce friction and heating. This will be the diameter of the pin that contacts the float. Here is an air die grinder and a bracket that can be fitted to a lathe. This is a diamond for truing the wheel. There, and onto the lathe. This old centre drill has been roughly ground to the new angle on the bench grinder. Setting the centre height is important here, as it will affect the angle if it is set off centre. The piece of metal held between the workpiece and the wheel must be square to show correct height of the grinder. That's square. Rubber bands hold the trigger down. The correct angle cone is ground onto the end, but there is no relief. You may also have noticed that the lathe is completely masked to prevent grit getting onto the bed. When using mounted stones on the lathe, they wear down far slower than when used by hand. This is good for accuracy and reduces aluminium oxide grit getting everywhere. Making the air bleed valve. This needs to be turned down for an OBA thread to be cut. Centre drill first. Chamfering before cutting the threads. The front of the chuck gives a flat surface to hold the die stock square. There is no real need to keep backing off the die, as this brass doesn't form large chips that need breaking, but force of habit. Too tight. Adjusting the die stock to give a looser fit thread. The two locking screws are loosened, then the taper adjuster is backed off. That's better, although a nut is only a rough way to check it. This is the new tool to cut the taper. That cut without relief. This wouldn't work well in a lot of other materials like steel. Excuse file. It's going to need a screwdriver slot. This is best done on a milling machine, but for one-offs this will do. deburr, The needle has slight damage from being tightened against the incorrect taper in the old part. Holding this part without damage is difficult, so steady can be made from this aluminium angle. You can see how soft this alloy is. If you do this, make the steady from dissimilar hardness material to the workpiece, softer if possible, if not then much harder, so the parts won't pick up on each other. The knurled part is wrapped in tape and gently held. Oil is important. It turns nice and true. And there's the valve fitted. Amazingly, you've made it through to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Next time the tickler button will be made.